All right, guys. Welcome back to the Roger Sarnt Podcast, where we talk all things Army. I'm your host, Sarnt Cruz. Today, we're talking NCOERs. We're going to break it down, so let's get started.
Roger Sarnt.
All right, guys. Welcome back. Just like you guys already heard, we're talking NCOERs. And what we're going to do is we're going to give you a comprehensive thought process and breakdown of the NCOER. Now, I'm going to do this in a 3-part series so it can be more digestible. So it's going to be a 3-part series. But as always, before we get started, today's shout out goes to Katya Childs. And Katya wrote, "Thank you for sharing your knowledge, Sarnt First Class Crews. This video really helped out a lot. A lot was capitalized for those of you listening. I did not get an NCOER support form completed with my leader during my first NCOER rating period. However, after watching your video, I want to make sure I do this with all my NCOs in the future now that I have a better understanding of it. Thank you again for passing on this valuable information." Guys, as I'll say this time and time again, this is why I do it. I want to make sure that I think this is my calling. I'm not gonna lie. Ever since I did when I was an instructor and I realized how much I liked it, I think this is my calling. As you guys already know, I have about 200 some odd subscribers. Shout out to you guys. So I don't make no money off of this. I literally dumped a lot of money in here just to put information out, and it makes me feel good at the end of the day. So it's a selfish reason, to be honest with you. But yeah. But I do also want to give a shout out to my subscribers for the past month or so, and those are Miles Ponce Avila. I don't know why I even said it like that. Jarek Kammerman, Shields 1989 Full, Freelancer Rafi, Cage Angela, Mike Robodi. I'm sorry for butchering that, Mike. Bruno Casillas, Ezra Walker, and Sarah C. Andre. It got a little accent on it, kind of fancy and shit. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. I just can't thank you guys enough. Any type of engagement that comes from you guys, that's why I like to put these shout outs up to make sure you guys know not only do I respond to them super quick, but I appreciate it. But let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes. So today's agenda, it's going to be writing NCOERs. We're going to talk about bullets. We're going to talk about the so what, because we got to understand what's the so what, or the board has to do that. Or when we write an NCOER, we have to make sure that we talk about the so what. We're going to give some examples, and then we're going to summarize. And as I said, all of this will be in 3 parts. So let's go ahead and head into the PowerPoint. So we're talking about leader development coaching session, right? The purpose for this is to conduct an NCO professional development to strengthen the NCO core competencies, or the NCO's competencies. The agenda is NCOER, and it also has Army writing tied into it, because you have to know how to write in an Army manner in order to properly get the information out. Those of you who are watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate it. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if you're listening to this on the podcast, you may want to, whenever you have a chance, slide on over to the PowerPoint on YouTube so you can see what we're talking about. So references are DAPAM 623-3, AR 623-3, and ATP 6-21.1, which is the counseling process. All right, so the NCOER begins with counseling. So you have 3 times that you counsel, which is the initial, and that's providing the NCOER support form, and that's coming from the rater and senior rater, and you have to do that within the first 30 days of taking that NCO over. Quarterly, you do your quarterly. That's where the support form actually kicks in. With the initial, some people just use what are those called, memos. Some people actually use the support form with the memo. It all depends. But on the quarterly, that's when you actually, at bare minimum, have to start tracking that. You should start tracking that, the performance. And then you have event specific failures and accomplishments, right? And then because this is a form of counseling, you have to have a deliberate process, which is scheduling a time, notifying the soldier for review or NCO and their input so they can start bringing their information out, which is why you always tell them track their stuff so we can write your NCOER together, and have a merit-based document, which is the support form. Then you have to remember your audience. When you're writing an NCOER, you're writing it for your leadership to understand it. You're writing it for branch managers to decipher it. You're also writing it for DA centralized promotion boards, which is when they're going to actually go in front of the board. When you're going for sergeant and staff sergeant, you're at a semi-centralized board, which is local. That's why you get your yes or no right there. These centralized boards are centralized to HRC, right? Then you're talking to your proponent managers. And all of this comes in because when you are writing an NCOER for an NCO, you want to make sure that they understand what you're saying so they can be put in the proper places of leadership. And then consider the NCO's, the impact on the NCOER, on the NCO's career. All right, so we're talking about bullets. And in order to understand how to write them, you got to understand what each bullet means. So it's very, like I said, we're going in depth. Did not meet standard. So you can read it, the whole bullet. I'm not going to read the whole bullet, but the main takeaway right here is the first sentence, which is rated NCO fails to meet or maintain the required Army standard and the organizational goals, right? So they didn't do their job. Now, the Met standard is the contrary to that. They did their job. They did successfully achieve and maintain the standard the Army requires and the organizational goals of the leader competencies and attributes. So they did do that, amongst other things. But the point is that they actually showed up. They breathed, and they breathed correctly. And this is why it's for the sergeants is met or did not meet standard, because you're breaking in, right? You're breaking in the period. It's a break-in period. And then from staff sergeant, you start getting actually like evaluated with the exceeded standard, which is the NCO. The rated NCO performs above the required Army standard and organizational goal, right? So they just go, they didn't just show up, they showed up and they showed out a little bit. Now, the far exceed standard, which is the fourth bullet that we just start getting evaluated for when you hit staff sergeant, is the rated NCO performs extraordinarily above the required standard. Army standards, right? And this is just think about it as did not meet standards, that you didn't do your job. Met standards, that you did your job. Exceeded standard is that you did your job super well above your peers. Far exceeded is that you're taking your talents and you're not just doing it there, you're doing it somewhere else, right? So you're not just at your organization at this point, you're doing stuff at garrison, you're in clubs, you're doing volunteer work, stuff like that. That's far exceed standards, and you're doing a lot of it. Just think about it that way. So when you write an NCOER bullet, there's a so what factor that you're thinking of. And the so what is broken down into three things that you're thinking about when you're writing the bullet. And then the last one is what you want the person reading the bullet at the board to understand. Excuse me. So what did the NCO do? What the NCO did, right? So they're performing an action. And then the so what is how he or she, how they did and how many times did they do it. Then, which means the result of what they did. So they did something, they did it this many times, and this was the result. Therefore, the professional implications of what they did is this. Follow me. I'm going to give you examples. Don't worry. So when you break down the so what, like I told you guys just a second ago, the what, so what, and which means are what the rated official writes. That's the NCOER itself. Now, once the NCOER is submitted, the therefore is what the board is going to understand. That's why word means a lot. Words mean a lot when you're in the writing NCOERs, okay? So I'm going to give you guys an example. I'm going to give you guys a couple of examples, right? So as I said, if you're on the podcast, thank you, but take a second because I'm a speak it, but it's gonna be weird because maybe I may say it to a point that you can't follow along, and that'll be my fault. But I want you to see it, so head on over to YouTube. So there's three examples, three bullets, and all three of them say, and this is where we're going to tie this in with football. For those of you who can't see it, there's Odell Beckham Jr. in bottom left-hand corner of the PowerPoint with his infamous catch against the Cowboys. Got him. You guys already know I'm a Giants fan. And then there's the legend Larry Fitzgerald on the right-hand side making a one-handed catch. All right, so the first example is completed 35 of 44 passes for 314 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The second example is ran 12 times for 84 yards and 1 touchdown. The third one is avoided being sacked 6 times with 0 penalties and 0 unintentional grounding penalties. Now the what of that, so what is, on the first one is completed and then the passes, right? The second example, which is the running back, is that they ran. Then the third example is the quarterback, which is, again, quarterback, avoided being sacked. That's the what they did, right? Now, the so what of what they did, because you're building on it, is in the first example, completed 35 of 44 passes, 35 of 44. That's the so what, right? That's what they did and how effective they did it. And then or how many times they did it. And then you have the running back, which is ran 12 times. 12 times is the so what. I mean, that's pretty decent. And then on the third example, you'll have the being sacked and then 6 times, okay? Avoided being sacked 6 times. So that dude's Michael Vick in the pocket. So that means, which means they went for 314 yards on the first example, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, passer rating through the roof, perfect passer rating. And the running back is they ran for 84 yards and 1 touchdown. And then on the third one is with 0 intentional grounding penalties. Now, as I said, it builds up. This is the so what. This is what you're writing in order to make it good. Now, the therefore is the conclusion the DA centralized board member will draw from the NCOER will depend on what's written. So if I look at the first example, I'm saying he completed 35, 44 passes and he has 314 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That means that he was so accurate that he provided his receivers with the best opportunity to catch the ball and score and help his team win. Does that make sense? The second example is ran 12 times, 84 yards with 1 touchdown. You got to think about it. 12 times for 84 yards, that's $7 a pop. 7 yards a pop. That means that he's either setting them up for second and short, or he's setting them up or he's got the first down every time. It's like 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3, first down. It minimizes the yards that they have to gain for the next set of downs, which is helping the team. Now, when you avoid being sacked 6 times with 0 penalties and 0 intentional grounding penalties, and intentional grounding gives you 10 yards, it takes 10 yards from you and a loss of down. So you avoided that. So that means that, again, it helps the organization. It helped them get down the field and score. So this is just how I broke it down. That's how you want to write your bullets so the board can understand that and break it down without having to sit there and think too much about it. All right, guys. So that's part 1. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow, and give a review and a download on the podcast if you're listening on that part. And stay tuned for part 2.
Roger Sarnt.